Hey guys, so we're considering doing a new series just because we need to get out of the house, but also because we really are kind of trying to look forward to the future. And our lease will be up in not too much longer, and John's work, he's really enjoying it here, and my sense of permanence is always dependent on a garden. So today we're going to go look at a house that is a double wide trailer. It's not fantastic, it's not super cute for filming, but it does have enough acreage to keep the horses on it, so it'd save us some money. And they would also be willing to have goats and chickens and that kind of thing. And so we're going to go look. John has work today, so he won't be coming, but it's kind of a preliminary run through. And we're kind of thinking that maybe what we'll do is show like the bottom end, the middle end, and the high end. So in a homestead, things we're looking for is first off a well. We really want a well. For one thing, it gives you the capacity to put a hand pump on it. And so that was John's big concern. We would like it to have a storm shelter so that when there's tornadoes in the spring, that kind of thing, we have somewhere safe to go. We need at least half an acre. It could have more, but we don't want it to have less than that because it's really hard to do a significant garden and any kind of livestock. You can do it on a quarter acre, but you're going to have to be really intensive and very intentional about how you're planting it. And you can't really have any large livestock. And the horses are pretty important to us, so we need at least half an acre, maybe more. A healthy house, even though the house is generally my last priority. You don't want it to have mold. You don't want to have, you want it to still be comfortable. You want it to be big enough for your family and comfortable. In this area, I want the house to be up on a hill because of drainage problems. I need to look, and I think that's why it's important to get into an area and spend time there for a whole season before you commit to things, because what would not be a problem in Idaho would be a huge problem here, as far as you don't want to be in a basin. You want to be at the top of the hill so that you're not flooding, so your animals aren't getting sick from being in too much water. And so we have been here almost 2 years now, because you came not this last August, but the August before. Yeah, and we've been out here on and off during that whole time. So we've been here, we've spent some time, we see what the seasons are like. The only season I haven't been here for is the tornado season.
Or summer.
Yeah, no late spring. No late spring and no summer. I guess I was here in May last year, and that's why I came in over a tornado. That was super fun. What else? I would like there to be fruit trees already, but it doesn't. That might not be a possibility. What else? I think that's pretty much it.
That's your list?
Most of it has to do with landscaping for me.
Yeah.
What's the land look like? How much of it there is it?
So,
How much of it is
unlike
there?
Julie, I am concerned about our family's comfort. And I see that she needs a dedicated spot for her office for the spinning, and someplace that she can decorate and cutesy out and make good filming and color and feel zen. Is that probably the right word to say?
Create my nest. Well, back in our 2,300 square foot house, we had a whole basement that mostly didn't get used. It just filled up with junk. And that was frustrating.
And food storage.
Yeah. And so I do feel like being a hoarder is not that great. And if you're paying for square footage just to store junk, that doesn't make any sense to me, because then I also get to clean it. But at the same time, it's nice to have enough space so that you can store things so that you're not purchasing so much. I don't think that minimalism is the end all be all, because if you don't store a certain amount of things, you don't have the tools you need to save money, and so you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by not having enough space to hold on to money making tools or money saving tools or whatever. So love you. Go to work.
Love you.
I love you.
Okay, at this point, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking we may not get out of the car. There, it doesn't look necessarily illicit back here, but I am a little nervous that we don't have John with us. Okay, there's a place of people living. They've got security cameras out here. We did just pass a junkyard type of a place. But, okay, so now we're at a neighborhood. I feel a little bit better about this. Okay, so I think this is it. It doesn't look too bad, but wow, it just makes me think this is a rough area.
That big houses. I don't see anyone that.
And it's not a huge property, so if you're gonna keep horses, this might be a bit tricky. Okay, girls, stay in the car for a bit, okay?
I'm fine with that.
I'm gonna go see if the door's unlocked. He said it would. Okay, so it's fenced. He said that we would have to add a gate. And that would need to be fixed. But it's definitely big enough for goats. And it is at the top of a drainage instead of at the bottom. I'm a little bit worried about coming in here. Okay. So, doesn't look terrible. Hello? Smells like paint. I like an island. Looks like everything in here is a little bit rough. Does have a wood fireplace. That's not necessarily the part they care about. So, we will close that up. Make sure it stays closed. Okay, so I like that there's not a ton of trees. I like that there's some trees, but not a ton. It looks like the property itself has been reasonably well taken care of. The girls and I could probably ride out here on the roads pretty safely. There's a lot of twisty-turny, slow traffic. I do have a little bit of a concern about the lower neighborhood. It looks pretty rough. But as far as goats and chickens, I like chain link better than other types of fencing. It would keep out dogs better. But it looks like they've had spots like where people have just cut the chain link fence and haven't put it back together, and he did kind of intimate that on the phone, that there's some repair that would need to be done. It's a little bit muddy. There's some trees. There's another gate that goats can get through, but this would be a fantastic property for goats. But I like that there's like houses up here with it. For a bit, when you come back, it looks like there's not going to be any houses, and it's just going to be super scary, or it's just going to be junkyards. We haven't seen any people. We saw one person, and she had a pretty nice car. She had jewelry on, so I was like, okay, maybe she's not getting robbed every night in her sleep. But I'm going to drive around and show you the neighborhood. It really matters, your neighborhood. Even back in Idaho, in some really rural areas, the neighborhood matters. We have some areas that are very bad for meth production, some areas that are bad for theft, some areas where maybe you'll be surrounded by a religion that you really don't like. There's all sorts of stuff like that you need to be mindful of, which is why I think that it's really good to live in an area for a season before you buy. Us being in the apartment and us being in the tiny house in Tulsa gave us some opportunity to see what the different neighborhoods were like, what the different price points were, what the weather was like. And up here, if we're in northern Tulsa, which we're not, we're in where are we? Sand Springs. This is Sand Springs. This place isn't known for being terribly bad, but there are some places in Tulsa that you really don't want to live in. Tulsa has the second highest murder rate in the U.S. And so you just want to be careful about where you go, because there are certain places where it's pretty scary. It would probably be a pretty good fit for us. It's 20 minutes from John's work, so about 8 minutes more than it would usually take him to get to work is how long it takes to get out here. Some of the road to get here is underwater. And so if there was a big storm or flood, I'm not sure how you would get to work, especially in a little minivan. There's no grocery stores out here, so we would have to go and get all of our groceries and make sure we have our food storage up really well. But this place has a lot more room than what we're used to, and I actually kind of like it. I always like a fixer-upper. And some of the others will show you that are the high end. If you want a really nice property, you're really going to pay for it, and it may not even be available. Usually people are very intentional when they're building good homestead properties, and they're just not available. So that's kind of where it stands. You can get a very expensive horse property, and it'll be really nice, but very expensive, but it won't be a homestead necessarily. And it's why a lot of times it's not going to happen as a rental. You have to get something bare bones and build it up from the ground. So
The fences are a little torn down.
yeah, they're a little torn down. We might have to learn how to make a...
There's a horse out on the road.
Yeah, there is. Hi, buddy. You look like you're starving to death. Oh, that's an old horse.
So is he starting to death, or is he just really old?
He might be both. But it looks like he is out a lot. What are you doing, Pony? Huh? What?
You want that from the breeder too?
Oh, I don't have any. Are you hungry?
What did you give him?
Gave him a treat from our ponies. Well, where is your
I think this might be his owner. Maybe.
Where is your owner? You are starving to death, buddy. His feet look like they've been trimmed. I don't know. He might just be old.
Buy him and take him out to Woodland West.
Okay, watch out. We're gonna keep going. He looks so hungry.
Do you think we could buy him and take him out to Woodland West?
Huh?
Do you think we could buy him and take him out to Woodland West? He's starving.
I don't like seeing a horse that's starving either.
Well, if we do get the place, then we can probably bring him food.
Well, I'm kind of thinking that it doesn't look very safe.
There's a whole bunch of horses out there.
Yeah, but they're in fences, honey, and they're being fed. See, they're fat ponies. He could have just been an old horse. Sometimes old horses, even when they're being fed, are skinny.
With a miniature pony. And there's pigs. And
But then you get this.
and chicken. Oh, I'd be careful in these holes. Did you get sprayed?
No, I just don't want to get sprayed this time. It's also important to make sure that you have the supplies that you need instead of having to make really long trips. In the south, grain does not stay good for as long as it does in the dry desert north where we come from. So you just kind of have to watch that. Make sure you have good containers. We're going to go get some feed for the horses. When I am getting manure out of the pasture for the hotbed, it's really hard to do it with a regular pitchfork. The tines are just too big. So you really want something like this, or something like this. You want to have something like that when you're cleaning up horse manure, so it's not all just falling through. But we're having to be really careful about our budget. And so we're probably going to wait on that and just get grain and dewormer today and maybe do the other next month. I do like Tractor Supply a lot better than like Southern Ag. Southern Ag has a tendency just to be about pets, not about useful animals and useful things, at least not to the same degree. So I wish that Tulsa had more. Tractor Supply, they seem to only have Tractor Supply on like the outskirts of town. And then they have, Tractor Supply on the outskirts of town or in the small towns around Tulsa. And Tulsa just has Southern Ag. Seems to be how it works. The feed here is also somewhere, it's about $4 cheaper.
Mom, this is sweet.
You're right, it is. It's about $4 cheaper for your basic treat grain. This would be about $12 at Southern Ag. And it's 50 pounds. We give it as a treat, not as a supplement. Our ponies are getting a little bit chubby. I'm happy to look at the horse feed, honey, but we don't really, since we're not feeding them very much of it, it's not a big deal just to get them the sweet feed. So the horses think we poisoned them. We got both of them done. I was a little worried about Gunner. He doesn't like new things, and he did pop me in the nose just a little bit with his head, which was what I was worried about. I didn't really want Paige getting hit in the head or run over because she doesn't recognize his signals quite as well. But we've got him done. We're not going to ride today. It's kind of windy. Makes him a little anxious. We haven't had lunch yet, so we're going to go. Hopefully you enjoyed that.